Good day again mga kapilo. This day, we will have another philosophical coffee session and we will discuss two topics, namely judgment and proposition and the logical form. So ano nga ba yung pagkakaiba nitong mga ito? So we will find out as we proceed in our discussion. So punta lang tayo dito sa topic natin ha. So chapter 6, which talks about judgment and proposition. So let me just read to you the course objectives. So at the end of the chapter, the students are expected to 1. Define judgment. 2. Distinguish true and false judgment. 3. Apply the logical form. 4. Give examples of each kind of proposition. 5. Determine the symbol of a categorical proposition. 6. Cite the rules in determining the quantity and quality of the proposition. And 7. Determine the quantity of the predicate. So, let us first study what judgment is. Okay? So, ano nga ba itong judgment na ito? So, what is judgment? Okay? What is judgment? Judgment is the act of the intellect, okay, which affirms or denies something. So, meaning to say, it affirms when it states positively, and it denies when it states negatively. So the mental affirmation or denial is called a mental proposition, and when written or expressed, becomes a proposition. So judgment is also called a mental proposition, and when it is already externalized, then it becomes a proposition. Now, there are examples that I gave here. So, examples of affirmation, ayan. Nena is a teacher. Some students embrace idealism. Every rabbit is an animal. And then man is a social being. Lastly, all plants need water. Bakit ko nasabing affirmation yung mga yan? Because these propositions are stated positively. Okay? Or in the positive way. Pakikita natin later on dito sa denial. Okay, let's just go to the denial examples. So denial to, Sita did not take a bath. A few entrepreneurs are not college graduates. Chef Boy Logro is not a hunk. The teacher does not agree with the student's idea. And then lastly, my laptop is not Acer. So makikita nyo naman dito, these propositions are stated negatively. Samantalang dito, positively. So propositions can be an affirmation or a denial, or what we call a negation. So to state it in a different way, propositions can be stated positively and it can also be stated negatively. Now, let us go to this one, the next page. So, sabi dito, the affirmation or denial can be true or false. Totoo yan. Sabi ko nga, di ba? Class, always remember that a proposition can be an affirmation or denial. Then, an affirmation can be true, but an affirmation can also be false. Another thing, a denial can be true or a denial can be false. So, ayan. It does not mean that when a judgment affirms, then it is true, and if it denies, then it is false. So what is to be borne in mind is that a judgment can be true or false. It can give information or a misinformation. Now, also a judgment must always be in its declarative form. Now, we just go back to this one. Bakit natin nasabi na ang proposition, it is an affirmation which can be true or can be false, or it's a denial which can be true or false also. For example, we go to the first proposition natin. Nena is a teacher. Nena is a teacher is stated positively or affirmatively, affirmation siya. Pero it can be true or false. Meron bang Nena na teacher? O si Nena ba na tinutukoy natin ay isang teacher? Or some students embrace idealism. Okay. It can be true. It can also be false. Every rabbit is an animal. Every rabbit is an animal. Very true. Okay, very true yan. Now, man is a social being, also true. All plants need water, it is also true. Pag sinabi kong Christian Gonzalez or CG is the president of the Philippines. Pag sinabi kong Christian Gonzalez is the president of the Philippines, it is stated positively, but it is false. Makikita nyo, hindi naman totoo yan. Because I am not the president of the Philippines. Medyo lumakas lang yung ulan, kaya medyo magugulo lang yung background natin ng bahagya. Lalaksan ko na lang din yung boses ko para hindi ma-overpower ng ulan. And guys, mag-ingat kayo kasi may bagyo ngayon. Now, sa denial naman, so magbigay tayo ng examples. So, Sita did not take a bath. Maaring totoo, maaring ding false. A few entrepreneurs are not college graduates. Maraming entrepreneurs ay hindi college graduates. Because not because you are a college graduate, then you can become an entrepreneur. Being a college graduate is not a requirement para maging negosyante ka. Okay? Chef Boy Logro is not a hunk. It is stated negatively, pero totoo nga, hindi siya hunk. Hindi siya hunks. Siya ay chunk. Okay, joke lang. Then, my laptop is not Acer. It is stated negatively, pero totoo siya. Okay? Totoo siya. Now, balik tayo dito sa there are other types of sentences. Always remember that ang ating mga propositions na ginagamit ay always in their declarative form. So there are 4 kinds of sentences: the declarative sentence, the interrogative sentence, the imperative sentence, and lastly, the exclamatory sentence, which we will not be dealing with in depth kasi alam nyo naman na yan. So, declarative form from the word declarative. So, it declares, it tells you something. Interrogative from the word interrogate. So, nagtatanong. Okay? Imperative sentence from the word imperative. It gives a command or it asks for requests. Now, exclamatory sentence, so there is a sudden express or rise of emotion dito sa exclamatory sentence, which is alam naman na natin. Okay? Always remember that the propositions that we will be dealing with are always in their declarative form. Now we go to the next topic, which is the logical form. Okay? Bakit? Ba't ayaw mapindot? Okay, yan na. The logical form. Always remember, class, that not because you have a proposition, then it is already in its logical form. Judgments and propositions are not all in their logical form. So they do not necessarily be in logical form when you affirm or when you deny something. It does not necessarily mean that you follow the logical form. So in logic, a proposition must be in the form of declarative statement and must be in its logical form. Tandaan natin, sa logic, hindi tayo gagamit ng imperative sentence, ng interrogative sentence, ng exclamatory sentence. Gagamit lang tayo ng declarative sentence. But this declarative sentence must be in its logical form. So that is, it has to follow the consistent pattern. So, susundan lang natin yung tatlong itong pattern ito, wherein this pattern has the following: yung subject, yung copula, at saka yung predicate. So, we will be talking about, or we will be following the SCP rule. Always remember this rule. SCP rule. Subject, copula, predicate rule. Yan ang susundan natin. Now, so it is understood that the subject is what is being talked about in the proposition. Alam naman na natin yan. Yung subject, yung pinag-uusapan. The copula serves an important role in the logical form because it is that which links the two. So it is necessary in logic that the propositions are in their logical form. For example, ito, tignan natin to. Solen often goes to parties. Hindi siya logical form, but it is a declarative sentence. Bakit hindi siya in its logical form? Kasi wala siya nung SCP. May subject siya. Wala siyang copula. meron siyang predicate. So, wala yung copula niya. So, para gawin natin yan na SCP pattern, mayroon tayong rules na susundin. So, later on, I will be introducing to you the rules na at para masundan ninyo. So, mas maganda kasi class na habang pinapanood nyo itong lecture video na to, hawak-hawak ninyo yung module ninyo. Para mas masusundan mo siya. Kasi kung hindi ka tumitingin sa module mo ba, medyo mawala ka. Okay, punta tayo dito. Dito sa SCP pattern. Okay. So, ayan. Solen, kanina, Solen often goes to parties. Ngayon, taas lang natin konti. Yan. Ngayon, napalitan na siya. Solen is the subject. Ayan, subject. Is the copula and party goer is the predicate. So, makikita nyo, ang layo, Solen often goes to parties and then Solen is a party goer. Okay, so paano nakuha 'yon? Dito na magbabago ang lahat. Okay? Kasi hindi gaya ng sabi ko sa inyo, hindi lahat ng propositions are in their logical form. And in logic or in our subject matter, kailangan lahat ng gagamitin natin ay nasa logical form. Meaning, sinusundan niya itong SCP pattern o yung subject, copula, predicate pattern. Now, ito yung mga rules. Okay. Number one rule. Keep the original subject. Keep the original subject. Yan. Kung Solen ang subject, edi Solen ang subject. Huwag mo na papalitan. Huwag mo gagawing Ann Curtis. Solen nga di ba? Number 2, use the appropriate linking verb for the subject. If the subject is singular, okay, ayan makita natin. If the subject is singular, the linking verb is singular. If the subject is plural, then the linking verb is plural. Very basic yan, class. Pag sinabi mong Solen, ang susunod dyan, ang copula na dapat yan is, hindi pwedeng are. Is dapat. Kasi the subject is singular, then the copula should also be singular. Pag sinabi mong many soldiers, hindi pwedeng is. Dapat are. Kasi when the subject is plural, the copula should also be plural. Okay? So, ayan na yan. Magbibigay ako ng example sa inyo mamaya. Then, pangatlo, do not use the progressive tense for your predicate. O, yan. Progressive tense. Ano yung progressive tense? Progressive tense, ito yung verb plus ing. Okay? Ano yung verb plus ing, sir? For example, love is the verb. O, loving. Gagawin mo loving. O, makikita natin mamaya. Okay? Yung loving, it is already in its progressive tense. Now, paano yan? Judy plays chess. Sundan natin yung rule number 1. Sa rule number 1, you just copy the subject. So, Judy. Rule number 2, isipin mo kung ano yung copula na dapat gamitin. Ano yung pag Judy? Judy is, Judy R, Judy M. Siyempre, hindi Judy Ann Santos Okay. Judy is. The copula is. Why? Because Judy is singular. So the copula should also be singular. Okay, the subject is singular. So the copula should also be singular. Now, sa rule number 3, ang sabi niya dito, wag mo daw gagamitin yung progressive tense. So hindi mo gagamitin Judy is playing. Hindi mo gagamitin yan. That's a no-no. Why? Because rule number 3 says that do not use the progressive tense for your predicate. So, hindi mo ngayon gagamitin yung playing. Okay? Hindi mo sabihin niya, Judy is playing chess. Hindi siya ganun. Okay? So, Judy is playing chess, yan ay mali. Because of rule number 3. Ang sabi ng rule number 3, do not use the progressive tense for your predicate. Okay. Now, punta tayo dito sa rule number 4. Avoid the use of one for your predicates. Think of a more appropriate word. So, for example, ayan, kanina, balikan natin si Judy. Sabi natin yan Judy is. Huwag mong gagamitin yung the one who plays chess. Wag mong gagamitin yan. Bakit? Iwasan daw yung one. Think of a more appropriate word. For example, palitan mo yun. Judy is the girl or woman, okay, who plays chess. So, pwede na yan. It is already in its logical form. Judy, subject, is copula. The girl who plays chess is the predicate. Basta wag mo lang gagamitin yung one. So, bakit? Because of rule number 4. So, tignan natin itong ginamit niya na example. Magellan discovered the Philippines. So, sabi dito, Magellan is the one who discovered the Philippines. Wag yan. Bakit? Wag mo ang gamitin yung one. Mag-isip ka ng iba, ng ibang word. So, ang ginamit niya dito, ito. Magellan is the person who discovered the Philippines. O, mas maganda pa. Okay na yan. It's already in its logical form. Why? Because this is already the predicate, this is the copula, this is the subject. Or, naglagay pa siya, Magellan is the Spaniard who discovered the Philippines. This is the subject, this is the copula, this is the predicate. Or, Magellan, this is the subject, this is the copula, the discoverer of the Philippines. So, that is your predicate. So, meaning to say, class, wala siyang pattern talaga na sinusundan. It's up to you kung paano mo lalaroin yung English language. So, kaya ang problema, paano kapag, sir, di ko alam kasi yung, nakalimutan ko yung rules of grammar ko, nakalimutan ko. Kailangan yung balikan, guys. Kailangan yung balikan. There is no way for you to understand this logical form kung mahina yung grammar ninyo. So, I assume, dahil kayo naman ay nasa 3rd year and 4th year na, yung mga estudyante ko, 3rd year and 4th year na. So, basic English language, alam nyo na. Okay, rule number 5. Punta tayo dito sa rule number 5. Avoid redundancies daw. So, avoid redundancies. So, for example, Sparks wrote the novel A Walk to Remember. So, wag mo nang gagamitin. Sparks is the writer who wrote. That is redundant. So, wag mong gagawin yan. So, simply reduce it in Sparks is the novelist of A Walk to Remember or Sparks is the writer of A Walk to Remember. In here, makikita nyo, this is the subject, this is the copula, and this is the predicate. This is the subject, this is the copula, and this is the predicate. So, yan, sinusundan niya yung SCP pattern natin. So, sabi pa dyan, be simple and direct in your answer. So, wag mo nang pahahaba. Kung pwede mo nang paikliin, wag mo nang pahahabain. For example, magbigay ako sa inyo ng magandang example dito, no? Okay? So, Leo loves Leia. Okay? Leo loves Leia. It is not in its logical form. Bakit? May subject siya, pero wala siyang copula sa predicate. Wala pa siyang ganon. So, punta tayo dito. Paano natin gagawin yan? Following the rules, maintain the subject, Leo. Rule number 2, gamitin natin yung copula na dapat ginagamit natin. Anong gagamitin mo dyan? Leo is, Leo are, Leo am. So, siyempre is. Because Leo is singular. Okay? So, dapat ang copula mo, singular din. Okay? Singular subject, singular copula. Now, what is the predicate? O, paano natin gagawin yan? Loves Leia. Okay, pwede naman na ito eh. Leo is the man. Leo is the man who loves Leia. Kaya lang, tama na siya. Actually, class, tama na yan. Pwede mo nang gamitin yan. Kaya lang, rule number 6, Rule number 6 says that be simple and direct in your answer. Bakit po papahahabain kung pwede namang maikli? The man who loves Leia, or the boy who loves Leia, or the person who loves Leia. Tama na yung mga yon. Kaya lang kung pwede mo paiksiin, mas the better. Okay? Dito, yung mas maiksi, the better, hindi mas mahaba. Ha? Okay. So, buruin natin ito. Simple lang. Leo loves Leia. So, to make it in its logical form, Leo is Leia's lover, or pwede na yan, Leia's lover. That is already your predicate. Or, Leo is the lover of Leia. Okay? Leo is the lover of Leia. This is the predicate. This is the copula. this is your subject. So, in that way, meron tayong sinusundan na pattern, the SCP pattern, or yung subject, copula, predicate pattern. So, class, I hope that you have learned something about this discussion, and kapag may mga questions pa kayo, clarifications, feel free to ask me, and magtutulungan tayo. Mag-ingat kayo, class, because of the bagyo, and God bless, keep safe everyone. Bye-bye, bye-bye.